Welcome, everybody. All right. Today we're talking about healing a broken heart. And, most of us have had our hearts broken at some point, and in some form or another, whether through the loss of a loved one, ending a romantic relationship, the emotional devastation that heartbreak leaves is paralyzing. And the pain can be all encompassing, and the impact to our psychological and physical well being can be crippling. And in most cases, especially the severe ones, a breakup can be a trigger for a clinical depressive episode. So, why is it so agonizing? There's a lot of reasons why but it's like a withdrawal from drugs can be devastating. A withdrawal from alcohol can be devastating. It is a commitment, and when you're in a relationship that is filled with commitment, commitment begets an in love feeling. If that's a job, if that's someone you're married to, if that's someone you're in a relationship, the depth of your commitment to that person will dictate the level of heartbreak that you have on the backside of it. And so what you have to understand is when you commit to another person, you are making huge amounts of room in your life for that person. That means you are accommodating them in every single way of your life. And throughout your day at work, when you're normally texting them or sending them a love note or reminding them of something or thinking about what you're going to have for dinner or thinking about what your sexual intercourse is going to be like, thinking about what your morning's going to be like, thinking about some romantic time you're going to spend together, thinking about the hobbies or the chores that you have to do together, thinking about the next conflict you're going to have. All of through our life, when we have another person, especially when we have someone that we are truly committed to, we are going to have a lot of grief on the other side if that relationship ends or if there is death. Grieving is a major part of a disconnect from a committed relationship. Now, what's really interesting is people these days are more about having another person than having a real commitment. And so, what they do is they commit to somebody and then they do it half-assed. So half the time they're debating, maybe I should stay, maybe I should leave, and the other half they're, oh, I'm just fully committed to you. I just love this person. We had such a good weekend. We did this wonderful thing. We had this great dinner. Oh, we didn't argue for the first time, and that's when you're committed. But on the other side of it, it's like, should I be with this person or should I not? Even though you have 5 kids, a house, $1 million in the bank and all this other things, you're still debating whether or not you want to be with that person. Well, that's not going to derive enormous amounts of heartbreak. What it's going to derive is enormous amount of chaos in your life for getting divorced, which you're not going to like. So your grieving is for yourself rather than the other. But heartbreak is different because what that's talking about is somebody that is married, somebody that will be married, somebody that's fully committed to another person, and all of a sudden they lose that person. That in the end is where heartbreak is. So we're not talking about the vast majority of people that are married that are just half-assing it with their commitment, debating whether they want to leave or stay. We're talking about people that actually have the courage and the capacity in their soul, in their spirit to commit to another person, to make room for another person in their life in a very real and passionate way to where they cherish that other person. That's where heartbreak happens. A heartbreak is the reopening of an old attachment wounds in which our psychological defenses have worked so hard to help us forget. So once we lose somebody that we have fully committed to and have fully been in love with and did not debate whether or not we should stay or go, that is going to remind us of other times in which we fully committed to stuff and it abandoned us. And that develops abandonment issues. And so people that have heartbreak feel abandoned and they fear abandonment. And that means the next time that somebody comes along, they're going to pay the price for that person going, oh, I was just checking in to see if you were where you said you were going to be. Oh, you didn't call me. You weren't thinking about me because they're expecting of you what they got from this other person they were fully committed to. So you get the vengeance You get the damage that's been caused because they were fully committed to another person. This is a very traumatic event, heartbreak. The loss of a true commitment. And once again, we're not talking about a half-assed commitment like everybody has in their marriages these days. We're talking about real solid commitment. We're not talking about we're here to raise our kids together. We're going to have a nice how was your day conversation. We're going to do this and that and choreograph our life. Oh, we go on vacation and do these things and we kind of act like we're interested in each other. Oh, we have sex, but we don't really feel it. We can just roll over and watch TV. It's not that. It's commitment. It's the real commitment. It's the real feelings. Those are the people that go through real heartache. The other people in a breakup are just feeling sorry for themselves. Even short romantic flings can feel like the end of the world. And this is why. Because if you put the brain of a person who actually is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and you put the brain of a person in the honeymoon phase of a relationship, those brains look exactly the same. And so, what we have to realize is that people in the honeymoon phase are into the fantasy of what their life is going to be like with this person, what their sex life is going to be with this person, what their family is going to respond to this person, how their life is going to be with this person. And that is a romantic vision. It's not the person that's in front of you. It's not the person that you're having this honeymoon phase with. It's all of the romantic ideals of what you could have that's in your own imagination. And yes, we have heartbreak when those situations do not work out, but that doesn't last as long as lifelong type of commitments. The imprint of past trauma does not consist only of distorted perceptions of information coming from the outside, but the person themselves has a problem knowing how to feel safe. Because once they have lost something that they have obsessed on their whole life and fully committed to, they don't know how to anchor. Their self-worth has been in their commitment. And that means that they have to find a new way to commit. And the deal is, if you're going to heal from heartbreak, you have to learn how to commit to yourself, which sounds pretty boring and pretty lonely for a lot of people, especially if you think you're just a turd that should lay in the yard. That if you're not much of a person, I'm not very imaginative, I'm not very attractive, I'm not very this, and all your negative dialogues are going to get in the way of you wanting to commit to yourself, especially if you're going, oh, I was rejected because of me, because I had an affair, because I did something stupid, because I spent all our money, because I lied. There's a million things that can cause a lot of grieving because people in the end do a lot of self-defeating. So the idea is if you're going to heal from trauma of a heartbreak, what you have to do is you have to look inside yourself and you have to go, what is good about me? And how can I take care of me? How can I take that commitment that I made for someone else and start filling my tank? And here is the reason you do that. Because if you fill your tank, you have more to give. And if you fill your tank, you're going to be a much more personally decisive person. And personally decisive persons are very attractive people because they make decisions. And that is the law of attraction, is somebody that makes decision, has an image, has something that they focused on, has passion, has purpose. Now we're talking sexy. Heartbreak is people that have lost their identity to someone else and they have no desire to have an identity for themselves. And so, what we have to think about is how to move through that. The other thing is false hope. It's a funny little thing. We cling on to the struggle to survive grief, and we have the false hope that the very thing that takes us down. The false hope is tempting us to deceive, like a drug. And false hope is what creates a problem. People that have false hope and the grass is greener on the other side, meaning that I'm always going to look for someone better than the person I'm with, those people have false hope. They live in false hope because they never can have peace with what they have. Here's the deal. If you want to be a committed person that has much more safe and less heartache in your life, you would be a person who fully commits. And that means you're not looking for false hope. You're not looking for the grass is greener on the other side. You're not looking for the next opportunity to get laid. What you're looking at is the idea of focusing on the relationship you have with your partner. Now, here's a very strange thing to think about. If you're going to have real memories with a real commitment with a real partner, all of your memories are based on feelings. How you feel about the sunset, how you feel about your vacation, how you feel about the dinner together, how you feel about holding hands, how you feel about going to the movies together, how you feel about having children, how you feel about playing with your children. These are memories because your feelings. And people that go through marriage robotically, doing all the things that they're supposed to do and saving all their money and feeling so safe and warm in their little castle with their little savings accounts stuck away, those people are empty because they're focused on the external, not the feelings. So they have a lot of things, but their life is very empty. Those people lack commitment. Those people that focus on the external safe comforts of life lack the emotional ability to commit emotionally because they're too focused on their survival and less focused on their relationship. And now, if you want to die and be remembered by your children, by your spouse, by your family, by anyone else in this life, you have to have an emotional attachment to people. That means you have to derive feelings from memories. So the deal is that people, when they commit to a partner, if you want to fully commit, you can't just commit to the safety and to the structure of building a great life. You have to be committed to the memories. And the people that detach from making memories, the people that detach from having empathy for their partner, having concern and care for their partner, having true understanding of their suffering, those people are going to stay committed, and their grieving is going to be death, their partner dying or them dying, because that's where the heartache's going to be because you vested so much in that other person. But guess what? You can choose to commit again and again and again. And you can commit in different ways to your children, to your employer, to your spouse, to your dog, to your lifestyle. You can commit to all kinds of different things. And that's what's important. Beware of idealizing. When you lose something or someone important, there's a tendency to romanticize and idealize that person. And you tend to remember only the good and forget the flaws and the many reasons that things did not work out. For instance, you may be obsessively replay the passionate moments while conveniently forgetting the 99.9% of the time you guys were complete turds to each other and sat there and watched TV for 8 hours and never said a word on the opposite ends of the couch. You have to understand that if you're going to romanticize your relationship by these little glistening moments, you are not going to grieve well. You're going to grieve for a long period of time because of your romantic ideal. We need to remember all of who we are in a relationship, what we're losing and what we're gaining. And what you also have to understand is when bad things happen in your life, what's more important is how you respond and how resilient you are. That's your testimony. That's where you want to go when things don't go well, when things break up, when we lose, when people die, when things happen. We have to respond. That is what makes us who we are. You will be remembered more by your resiliency than your trauma. However, people that live in their trauma, live in their heartbreak, call themselves a victim, and sit there and play the violin for themselves all day long and force everybody else to sit around and listen to their horrible, moany little violin solo, those people are going to be miserable their whole life. So resiliency is what it takes when you have heartbreak. That means you begin investing in your next chapter. You take what you learned and take the resources that come out of the trauma and you build on them. You take the lessons and the failures that you learn, the things that you did wrong that you don't need to do wrong, the integrity that you lost, and rebuild it and focus on that because that is what's going to make you attractive. We also have to be mindful of self blame, self doubt, self criticism. When you've been rejected, the tendency for many is to personalize it, especially if you're one of these codependent crazies. Codependent crazies learn to blame themselves for everything because they marry a narcissist. And if you're going to marry a narcissist, that means you're responsible for every problem that ever happened. And after you divorce, even though you can't stand them and you know they're responsible for everything bad that happened, you're going to blame yourself because that's how they groomed you. So you have to be really careful to balance what am I responsible for and what am I not responsible for so I can learn about me and what I did to contribute to that situation. And the one biggest thing, if I married a narcissist or a borderline disorder or an antisocial personality or a sociopath, is that I attracted that kind of crap and I don't need any more of that in my life. And I need to figure out first, because I tend to like those crazy creatures and I'll probably get another one. I need to learn what that looks like so I don't pick it. And I have to learn how to not be attracted to that so I don't pick it. And I need to be glad that I lost that piece of crap, even though things may be more difficult right now, but I'm going to make it. That's what it takes to survive. All right, we're going to talk more about heartbreak, so come back. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about heartbreak and how to heal from that. And what's really interesting is the negative things that happen in our minds after a heartbreak. Why wasn't I good enough? What's wrong with me? If I were only smarter, more athletic, more, good looking, smelled better, looked better, had better feet, had better, whatever, had bigger boobs, whatever, bigger butt, whatever, would they have stayed? Then this can morph into, will I ever be good enough? Will anyone ever want me? And on go the voices of these gremlins in our head. And further down the problem we go, self loathing, despair. And it's easy to remain stuck in that cycle of self blame, especially when you're in the throes of grief. But this will not serve you. Mindfulness is imperative during this time. And though it's hard to fathom when you're in the middle of a breakup, the pangs and the heartbreak of lost love will eventually subside. And you need to remember that. No feeling lasts forever, regardless of how relentless and excruciating it is. And if it does stay around forever, it's feelings that you have for yourself and not for other people. Pain ebbs and flows, and its intensity decreases with time. It can take, if it's the first time you're going to go through grieving, it can take almost 3 years. But it happens in pockets and it happens in fleeting moments where you go through all of the stages of grief, or you go through one like depression, or another one like anger, or you go through finally getting to acceptance, or you go through bargaining, or you go through denial. But the deal is that when you have heartbreak, you've got to completely embrace the mourning process, the grieving process. And that means if something like a song comes on the radio while you're driving down the highway, pull off the highway if it's going to upset you and allow your brain to grieve. And here's the real weird part with heartbreak. If you're going to sit around and grieve and think about, why am I grieving? You're going to make it go around very much longer. So every time, it's like a wave. So the first wave comes in, oh, song that used to be our song, blah, 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 blah. You start crying. Okay, great. Now, if you focus on, why am I crying? Well, there's that part of the song, and there's that moment we were at this place, and there was these moments we said this to each other, and there was this moment we had this great whatever, sexual whatever. Okay, all of these things, every single one of them add 3 more minutes to that emotion. Each one, 3 more minutes. And so you're going to build into a tidal wave when you ask, why am I feeling this way? Now, if you're really grieving and you're heartbroken, the best way through it is to shut the hell up, not ask yourself why you're feeling that way, and allow yourself to just feel. Because if you do, the feeling will go away within 3 minutes. But if you're going to sit there and psychoanalyze it like all these analytical turkeys do, all these ruminative processors, all those people that call themselves I'm an introvert. If you're going to be one of those, you're going to be psychoanalyzing yourself all day long, and you're going to be crying, and you're going to be grieving, and your self-esteem is going to go down the crap hole. Now, if you let yourself just feel, it'll go away. It's like, it's like your muffler blowing out this crap out the back. It goes away. It dissipates. Unfortunately, these control freaks in life have to psychoanalyze every single emotion they have, especially when they're grieving, and they make it go on and on and on for a lifetime, and it cripples them. Though it's hard to fathom when in the midst of the breakup, you just have to understand that you may have been in the wrong relationship. You may have been in a relationship that was good for the time, but not good for where you are now. You may have entered a pocket of your life where the kids are gone. And yes, you guys had a great intimacy. You had a great life. You were great parents for your children. You enjoyed each other. You laughed. You had many memories. But all of a sudden, one partner is stuck and trying to keep you in the past, and you are trying to evolve into something that you've been holding back, trying to raise your kids. And if that's so, and you're married to somebody that just, you're not the same, you're not the way you used to be, you like to do this and that, and you don't love me anymore, and blah, blah, blah. If you've got one of those turds, leave them. Move on, because they are stuck in their little shoebox and they want you to live in that. If you're with those people do not live. They cope with life, and they want you to sit around and cope with them. If you're a person who wants to expand and evolve with your life, understand that in your marriage, if that partner wants to just take you back to your teenage years, or take you back to the honeymoon phase, or take you back to what you used to be, or what you were 6 months ago, they don't understand. We are creatures that evolve. We become greater and different. Our interests become different. Our core, yes, it pretty much stays the same, but our interests and who we are evolves. And if you have a partner that wants you to stay in the past, you're probably not in a good relationship. And so sometimes people leave people because of that, because they want to keep you in the box. So, if you want to be a very unattractive person and you want to be somebody that's heartbroken because you're fully committed to this horrible person who's changing and evolving after raising their kids, well, you're part of the problem. You have to evolve too. You just are too lazy. So get off your butt and stop living in fear and step out and start discovering yourself. And guess what? That other person who's doing the same thing might respect you more and might be more attracted to you because you are seeing them now for who they are and they're seeing you now for who you are. But if you're so focused on being the victim and them changing and you not, you're probably going to be heartbroken. And that is your fault. Though loneliness and unrequited love and romantic relationship delusion have been examined, what we have to do, because we examine it all day long in our friends and our relationships in life, but most people, at least 82% of us, have heartbreak. And that's why we're always examining it. But guess what? Pain is a reminder that you're still alive. And so what you have to understand is the pain is not important. What is important is how you choose to resolve the pain so that you can help other people. Because 82% of us go through heartbreak. We all share that feeling. We all know what that feeling is like, and we all can help each other through it. The most common cause of heartbreak is a romantic breakup, while the least common cause is a non-romantic event, like a pet dying. Being in a current state of heartbreak is associated with being single, but showing a higher degree of narcissism, neuroticism, and avoidant attachment and anxious attachment means that you're going to live in your heartbreak forever. Because people love to be anxious. They love to be victims. They love to live in fear. They love to feel like they're abandoned forever. But here's the thing you need to understand if you're going to live a life: faith. Faith is the opposite of fear. Having faith in yourself, I'm going to make it. Having faith in the idea, I'm going to meet someone else. Having faith that you're going to discover a new part of yourself. Having faith that your partner is going to be okay. Having faith that life is going to change and it's going to be fine. Having faith in yourself that you made it through hard things in your life. Faith is what it takes to go to the grocery store, to get in your car, to buy a new house, to get a new relationship, to have children, to get a new job. You have to have faith to make decisions. That is what life is about. If you're going to calculate fear into it, your brain is going to go 50,000 different directions and you're going to be the most indecisive, unattractive human being on the planet. If you're a faith-based person, you are attractive. If you're a fear-based person, you're not attractive. So fear enters, faith leaves. Faith enters, fear leaves. Nobody wants to be living with a fear-based person. Nobody wants to be your safety blanket. Yet that's what neurotic people have to have because they're fear-based. Fear-based people go through lots of heartache because nobody wants to be around to deal with their crap. And I just can't change my fears. And then fear-based people also have their hypothesis. Well, if you do this, then this is going to happen. If that happens, then this is going to happen. That happens, and then I have to think about that. So they calculate all day long, and nobody wants to be a part of that because that has nothing to do with being fully present and here. Now, here's the deal. If you want to bulletproof a relationship and you want to have a strong commitment with somebody, focus on gratefulness. What you're grateful for. Thank you for making me breakfast. Thank you for thinking about me. Thank you for getting me a coffee. Thank you for driving over there and picking up the kids. Thank you for thinking about. Thank you for making that extra thing for dinner. Thank you. Thank you for sending me a text and just saying I was thinking about you. Thank you. Gratefulness is what makes commitment much stronger and makes heartbreak less of a potential. Having your heart broken may not be preventable because if you married somebody that's a turd, if you married somebody that is highly emotional, somebody that is impulsive, Somebody that does what they feel and then evaluates it later. Somebody sits around making excuses for every stupid thing they did in their life. You probably was somebody that's going to destroy your relationship. So you need to decide, how long do I want to be around that? And do I have the courage to make a decision not to be with this person? And how much trust am I going to put in that person without them breaking my heart? So I'm going to have to be with them because they're impulsive, because they're selfish, because they like to have affairs, because they like to look at other things, because they like their pornography, because they like their drugs, because they like their alcohol, because they don't know how to cherish me, because all they care about is their friends and themselves. All they care about is their job. Well, if you're going to be with one of these turds, you're going to have to prepare for heartbreak. And so, are you going to fully trust that person? Well, if they can't invest in you, it's going to be really hard to. So don't set yourself up. Make a decision how much longer you want to be with the turd, and then move on to somebody that really does love you and does accept you for who you are. But you have to know who the hell you are before anybody else is going to. And if you're going to just jump into another relationship as a rebound, oh, and then go marry them during the honeymoon phase of your rebound, you're probably not going to do well for yourself either. You need to think about, who am I? What am I about? And have boundaries. Boundaries are set by what I can do and what I can't do. And boundaries are also set by communication. I would really prefer you didn't talk to me like that. I prefer that you didn't text this other person. I would prefer that you didn't drive me away by doing this other behavior, or looking at these other people, or looking at your pornography all day long. I prefer that you didn't get drunk every time you were around me and my family. I would prefer you weren't drunk around our children. I would prefer you didn't do drugs when nobody was looking. You know, if you're going to be that, you're sending the early warning signs that I cannot commit to you fully, because you're only committed to yourself. And you need to not set yourself up naively believing that this idiot that is into everything else but you is going to be dedicated to you. And you need to understand the reality that your job is to communicate. You're crossing my boundaries. You're crossing my boundary. But if you don't mean business and you can't make a decision to leave, that's your deal. If you're going to be delusional and believe and ignore every red flag and be with the turd, you're delusional. It's your fault. So if you're going to be heartbroken, you're heartbroken because you were an idiot. And heartbroken people sometimes mistake their feelings for other people when it's really the feelings for themselves. I really knew early that I shouldn't be with that person. I knew that they were going to do this thing. I knew that I could not trust them. I never could trust them. I knew that I had these feelings that I didn't want to be with them. Well, come to that conclusion sooner than later so you can have a better life. Here's the stages of a breakup. Ambivalence. That is when you get closer to apathy. Apathy is the opposite of love. So if I'm in counseling with people and I see one of the partners is apathetic, I just don't care anymore. I don't care about how you feel. I don't care about what you think. I don't care about how you come at this. I don't care about what you have to say. I don't care about what your family has to say. I don't care about any of it. If you're at that stage, you're ready to leave. That's the opposite of love. Now, if you're still cussing them out, you're the biggest turd I ever met in my life. I can't stand you, blah, blah, blah. When you see people arguing and telling each other how horrible they are, there's still love there. The other thing is denial and shock. This cannot be happening. That's another stage that a breakup is happening, because the trust is broken. You can love someone and not trust them. But when you trust someone, that's the only way that your love will grow. You work on trust. You value trust in a relationship. That's how it grows. If you can't value trust, you can't grow a relationship. That is all there is to it. It is not love. The love is derived from it. So, for instance, you could have a friend and you love your friend and you trust your friend and you haven't seen him in 10 years and you come back together and you still trust each other and you still love each other. The love is going to grow and grow and grow when you come back together because you trust each other. That's how relationships grow. And we need to understand that. There's also another glance of a stage of a breakup is anger and resentment, unresolved anger, people that never take accountability for what your perception is. That's what we have to do in a relationship. If my partner decides that I'm a jerk, I'm a terrible person, I'm a poor communicator, I have to, if I want to have a relationship with that other person, instead of being defensive, no, I'm not. I did this. You're the one that's like, if I want to be one of those idiots, then I'm probably not going to have a very good relationship and nothing's ever going to get resolved. And we're probably going to end it. But if I'm going to be like, hey, I can see how you see me that way. I can see how you understand. I can understand where you're coming from. I know that I come across like this sometimes, and I get that. I understand that, and I need to change it. You see, that would be a much better response. People that care about their commitments and are not headed for heartbreak operate that way. Your perception is your truth. My perception is my truth. I respect your truth too. All right, we're going to take another break and we're going to come right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about healing from heartbreak. You know, It's often you're wondering if you did the right thing. Sometimes you're convinced that breaking up was the best thing. Other times you find yourself wondering if maybe, you could have made it work. Well, that's not going to help you. Playing out scenarios, playing out the different what if scenario. What if I said this? What if they had done that? What if we'd still be together? Well, that could be helpful if it's constructive, but to focus on that is not going to be very helpful for your moving on. Also, the emotional whiplash. One moment you're feeling empowered, imagining your future without them. The next, you're drowning in a sea of nostalgia, going through old photos, texts, desperately trying to, hold on to something that slipped away. Then you have all these mixed emotions where you're relieved that the fights are over, but you don't want to be single again. And you're angry at your ex about the way they treated you. And you also miss them. However, when you divorce someone, that's when you really know who you marry. Divorce and when a will is read to family members, that is when you really find out who people really, 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 really are, especially if money is a part of it. Big money or even small money is a part of it. That's where you discover the real potential of all these people that you had delusions about. Acknowledge your feelings. Remember, it's okay to have conflicting feelings. Acknowledge your emotions. Allow yourself to feel your feelings fully as they arise, and let them be felt. Let them be expressed. Let them move through you. That is the grieving process. Don't fight it. Let it happen when it happens and let it roll out. Let it happen and feel it. You also have to be honest with yourself. You have to take the time to understand your needs, desires, your priorities. Reflect on what you want in a relationship, whether the ambivalence you're feeling is because you genuinely want to be with the person or because you're afraid of change. You know, don't lie to yourself. You have to be honest with yourself and define your truth. And that's what it takes as a person who's heartbroken. Now, heartbroken people are often left feeling abandoned. But you have to understand, if someone has abandoned you, they've done you a great favor because they've really, really shown their ass about who they really are. You need to understand that this person may not be a person you want to have a relationship with. This person may be, in fact, a very toxic person in your life. This person may not fit with what your needs are anymore. And that happens. And the deal is that there's probably someone else out there for you. Unless you're Hermie Hermit who has to live in your little place and never leave and do this cyber dating where you're online dating and then ghost the people after the first date or never show up even after you make the dates. If you're going to be one of those people, you probably are going to be heartbroken. And yes, you probably live in it the rest of your life because you have no courage and you're not alive. You're just coping. Shock tends to set in after a breakup, and at that stage, we're in denial about the breakup and our emotions. And denial is a protective mechanism that absorbs the pain as we slowly deal with the shifting reality. So, for instance, people that have affairs, they may have an affair and they're in this very much of a denial phase that it's going to have any impact on their life. I can keep this secret forever. This is what's going to happen. I can do this thing. And then guess what? It shows up. And when it shows up, it shows up. And you could be in denial. Oh, it's no big deal. Oh, they were different. Oh, we were just friends. And oh, it didn't mean that much to me. And blah, 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 blah. Well, that's denial. And the other person knows it's denial. So the deal is you were delusional in the first place. So maybe you shouldn't be in a relationship if you're one of those people. There's some of the thoughts and behaviors you may experience. Refusing to accept reality. You're probably thinking this can't be happening. You're hoping that things get better and go back to the way they were. Well, it never will be the way it was, but change is what creates wisdom. Change is life, evolving and adapting. That's what we are as creatures. You cannot allow heartbreak to break your will. We are built, though there's a vast majority of people out there that are little wiener schnitzels with no will, but we are built to have a will. We have access to our will, but a lot of people don't use it. A lot of people are wimps, especially in this day and age, and they want everything laid out before them on a silver platter, and they're so highly impatient because everything comes to them at the doorstep through their Amazon orders. But the deal is that people are built to live in the jungle and survive. And that is how we need to operate. And if you're going to have heartbreak, you better get back in touch with your will to survive and start to calculate and figure out how to make your life better and how to survive. Because when you do that, you're building resources so another person may come along who better matches you, who has a will also, let's hope, unless you're one of these savior people that has to always save people from their misery. These people that want to always be in a one-up position, thinking that their mental health is better than the depressed idiot that they're with, or the sad, anxious person that they're with, or the person that's been married 8,000 times, or the person that's had 5,000 kids from different people. If you're going to be one of these that's attracted to these people that crash and burn their lives, you're probably got some issues for yourself. And if you're heartbroken because you dedicate and commit yourself to a person who self defeats any day and every day of their life, who never worked a day in their life, and you worked, 30 years and saved a ton of money, and now you're with this turkey who never did anything, that's your fault. And you need to set new boundaries. But if you're heartbroken because you lose them, you forgot to look at their history, and maybe you were a little delusional. The other thing is forgetting, things happen. If you forgetting that you're not together anymore, you find yourself reaching for them in your sleep or expecting to see them when you go to familiar places. So the deal is you want to relieve yourself of triggers. If you're still emotionally attached to that person is going to still be walking with you because as you're heartbroken, you're thinking about that person all the time, and what are they doing? Who are they with? What are the I don't even know where they're at. I don't know what they're doing on this day. Who are they having sex with? Who are they doing? What are they doing? What are they talking to? If you're gonna go through heartbreak, you're gonna go through all those wonderful feelings. But the deal is, it's fleeting, and you gotta let it pass because it's none of your business what they're doing. Your business is to begin taking care of yourself. So, some people want to make friends with their ex. And I think that's a very dangerous thing to do, especially if you're going to enter in a new relationship. Holding on to your ex means that there's a good chance there's a bridge towards that direction when things go bad in this relationship. So, people that do that crap, I think it's a mind game. If you're going to be with another person, and let's say you're married, male, female, and you're married and the male brings a female, this is my best friend, this is my ex-girlfriend, but we're just friends, and la 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 la. If you're going to do that, expect there to be some disruption in your relationship because you are knocking into the trust that your relationship has. If you can't have medicinal conversations like where the kid's going and leave it at that, if you've got one of these friendships with the opposite sex and you're in a relationship, or if it's the same sex, if you're in a homosexual relationship or whatever, God, 72 genders, we don't know what people are doing anymore. But the deal is, if you're going to be in a relationship, you don't bring an element of attraction of another person because that's going to create trust issues. And trust issues, in the end, will destroy a relationship. The other thing is, you want to tell your friends and family members and the people you love. If you're heartbroken, don't just sit there by yourself. Other people know what heartbreak is. Reach out. Reach out to people. Reach out to your family. Reach out to your friends. And if you have no friends, start making friends. Make friends with people to start conversations. People know what heartbreak is. You don't want to sit alone in that. You may want to go to a group, a men's group or a women's group and just be there because they know what it is. Somebody in there knows what heartbreak looks like. The other thing is, feeling hurt and picking fights and blame game and all that stuff is great, but it's going to delay your heartbreak. Shifting blame, pointing at the other person, that's great. But you have to understand, if you're going to be with somebody, and yes, there's these serial people that have affairs and do all that stuff, but if you're going to be with somebody and they do that, they break your heart and they go somewhere suddenly do something stupid, you may be a part of that, and you have to own your part. Was I a person who supported that behavior? Was I a person who allowed them to have that behavior? Was I a person who did not set boundaries? Was I a codependent? Because if you played that role, you need to own that crap too. You don't need to just point at them and say what a horrible person they are. You need to point at yourself and say, I did allow some of that behavior, and some of this is my fault. The other thing is, prompting you to discard and destroy items that remind you of them. Well, you may want to understand that that impulse to destroy things that remind you of them is also destroying the memories of your life. So let's say you're married to somebody for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and you made a lot of great memories, and your kids are still around, and you have friends and you have people that you've been around. If you want to just get rid of those years of your life, that's fine, but that means you're getting rid of years of your life. If you want to put them in storage and put them away somewhere where someday when you're old, you can look back on it, or leave it for your kids that you had with that other person, or leave it for your family members that may have liked that other person, that would be important because that was a memory. That was part of your life. And what people do is when they have heartbreak and then they move on to a new relationship, they want to eliminate every single thing that was involved in the previous relationship. But guess what? You're going to eliminate all those memories because this other person wants you to make new memories with them and not focus on the past. That's great, but you need to respect the fact that you've lived your life and you don't want to just eliminate your life. You also want to sit with it. If you're angry, feel angry. If you're depressed, feel depressed. But you want to allow yourself to feel and then allow yourself to do something to fill it. Gratefulness for other people is one way which you can help yourself heal because it reminds them and it reminds you that you're not alone. That's a very important component of our lives. We also want to negotiate relationship terms. You may renegotiate a relationship with your ex to keep them in your life, like a boundaries. Okay, we're only going to talk about our kids, and that's it. We're not going to talk about our spouses. We're not going to talk about any of it. We are going to exchange our children, and that's it. And so you have to set terms for your relationship with your ex if you have things that you have to continue to have dialogues about. You also want to compromise on your personal values, your boundaries, your lifestyle choices. You know, if you're stuck with a partner that you're brokenhearted with, you have to disassociate enough to go, okay, all right. We're not going to be reminiscing about the relationship, but there are things that were valuable to me and things were valuable to you. We need to discuss what was meaningful. If we're dividing up memories, we need to discuss what was meaningful to you and what was meaningful to me so we know how to make a decision. Now, when you're healing, you want to have a self-care routine. People that are broken, that is the perfect time for you to go start working out and get your 16-year-old body and become more attractive on the surface. You may not feel attractive on the inside, but you can feel attractive on the outside. And if you start looking at the outside getting better, the inside gets better too. So you want to get your body back. So that's an important thing to do if you're going to be going through heartbreak is start focusing on getting in better shape. You also want to focus on the present moment. And that means instead of being overwhelmed with thoughts about what you've lost and about what the future is going to be like, focus on the now because the now is what you can control. And that is where life is. That's what's going to make you more stable is the now, not the past, not the future, not fear, faith, and living in the moment. Living in the moment is what life is about. And just because you're grieving, just because you're heartbroken, doesn't mean you can't connect with your child. You can't connect with your best friend. Doesn't mean you can't connect with your family, can't connect with the people that love you. You need to get back to being present. Maybe that's why you broke up in the first place. That's our show. I want to thank everybody for listening. I love hearing from you. You can do that on our webpage at voiceamerica.com, the empowerment and health and wellness channels, Dr. Gary Bell's Absurd Psychology. Now remember, a person does not need anyone who does not need them. Also, marriage is a workshop. The husband works and the wife shops. Also, heartbreak teaches us that we are worth so much more than what we settled for. Follow your heart, but take